Hello and welcome to the Cyclingnews podcast, brought to you in association with Prendas Ciclismo, Pinarello and Floyds of Leadville. I'm Daniel Benson, and joining me in the studio today is Ed Pickering from Procycling. Hello, Ed.
Hello.
It's Monday after a big weekend of racing involving a number of Tour de France contenders, and we'll be going through the highlights and lowlights for several riders. We'll also hear from Greg van Avermaet on the classics, the Tour and his future, with BMC Racing set to end their time in the sport at the end of the year. But we'll start with the Tour de Suisse, where Richie Porte dominated to win ahead of Jakob Fuglsang and Nairo Quintana. BMC were in control from start to finish, with really only Movistar putting up much of a fight, with Quintana taking a well-deserved win at Arosa. In Slovenia, Primož Roglic won the GC and the final two stages, no less, one a mountain stage and the other a time trial. The Lotto rider has now won his last three stage races. His only real blip coming at Tirreno, although he did win a stage there. Rigoberto Uran was second, almost 2 minutes down. He did win a stage, and Matej Mohoric was third overall. Over in France, Alejandro Valverde showed Quintana and Landa how it's done, winning the rebranded Route du Sud. Ed, we've seen a number of Tour de France contenders, possible contenders, over the last few weeks, not just last weekend. So Thomas, Quintana, Landa, Valverde, Bardet, Porte. One of the Yates is Adam Yates, Dan, Martin, Zakharin, Kruijswijk, Kelderman, Nibali, Barguil, Fuglsang, Mollema. The list goes on. What stood out for you?
Yeah, it's been quite exciting, actually. There's one more race to go. Adriatica Ionica, new stage race in Italy. But the information is pretty much all in now. All the races are done. We've seen all the GC contenders riding either well or kind of maybe hiding their form. And I think it's been quite revealing. And the most interesting thing for me is I still don't have any clue who's going to win the Tour, because there's a bunch of favourites, obviously. But it's mainly that I can think of good reasons why any of them won't win. They've all got something counting against them. But particularly impressed by Richie Porte at the Tour de Suisse. I thought that was a good win for him and be confidence boost at the right time. Yeah,
biggest win of his career, I would say. He came close with the Dauphiné last year, obviously got dislodged on the final stage because of some interesting tactics from his former teammate, Chris Froome, who we'll talk about later, of course. But yeah, massive win for him. BMC, I mean, like I said earlier, only really Movistar took it to them. There was only really one stage where they could do that, and that was the stage to Arosa, although on the previous day, Porte did take time out of everyone with a late attack. Craig Anderson won.
Porte looked very strong on that. You know, when he went away from there, it was behind the group, wasn't it? So it wasn't for a stage win, but he did look very strong. His attack was kind of classic Richie Porte. It's just kind of slow, steady, winding up, diesel acceleration, and just kept on going until he'd basically burned them all off. That was impressive. Movistar the next day, I thought that was an interesting sign because it shows that Quintana is showing signs of form. That's, after he's been a bit disappointing. He was disappointing last year, missed out at the Giro, did okay there, and then was really mediocre at the Tour. And he blamed it on accumulated fatigue from writing 4 Grand Tours in a row. So he's had basically a year off since then, and he's now showing signs of hopefully the kind of form he needs to win. And what was most revealing was the fact that he rode on the front of that group, and also it was kind of good work by Movistar. And I do think that team does have real options in the Tour de France if they cooperate with each other and if they have a good plan.
I think there's a big assumption that all three leaders are going to turn up with their A game, with their best form. Even now, they're not all quite on the same level. I mean, Landa was blew hot and cold, didn't he? And so did he always does. So did Quintana. Although I thought what was really impressive was the fact that when Porte tried to go after him on Arosa, he started to crack, didn't he? And only Jakob Fuglsang was there to really keep it together. I think Porte would have still gone on to win the race unless he'd really collapsed. But yeah, there's really good, like you said, there's really good signs there for Quintana that he's rediscovering a decent level of form with the Tour still a few weeks away.
Yeah, the thing about Quintana, and this is, Swiss didn't change my mind on this, is that he's one-paced, and that sounds like a criticism, but his one pace is actually extremely fast, but he doesn't have the kind of zingy attacks in the mountains that maybe maybe Contador used to have or Froome has had. But Quintana's strength is that ability to just hold that extremely high pace for a long time. You saw, Richie Porte closed the gap from 40 seconds to 10 seconds. and then fell away. And I think that was Porte falling away. Right, Quintana just kept that same. He couldn't go any faster, but it was asphyxiatingly fast, and that's not going to count against him, because when you look at the route of the Tour de France this year, the second half especially, or basically the Alps onwards, is climbing almost every day, and that's going to suit a rider like him.
Yeah, even those stages in the Massif Central, I think, are going to be really key, and that's where I think it could be won or lost. Let's talk a little bit about a few of the other GC contenders, maybe some of the ones that didn't shine so well. So let's look at Landa, perhaps, who hasn't quite done enough really to even suggest that he should go in as leader, would you say?
No, he hasn't done enough. That's not to say that he won't turn up at the Tour de France and be absolutely sparkling on the climbs. Like you said, he always blows hot and cold, and I don't know whether he has ownership of that, but we certainly it seems not to be easy to know when he's going to come up with the goods or not.
But if you were a GC leader, you wouldn't, an established GC leader like a Quintana, like a Froome, you wouldn't want him in your team, would you? Really? I mean,
that's an interesting point.
Because it's just
hard
disruptive.
to say. He's so good at climbing that you'd want him in your team. But on the other hand, it
comes with so much baggage, doesn't it? And that's not necessarily his fault. Part of it's the media and the fans, claiming that he should be a leader, all this Freelander nonsense. But there are plenty of good climbers out there that are probably more consistent in terms of doing a job.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I think that Movistar do have an extremely exciting Tour de France team, and if they work together, great. But also, it will be interesting to see what happens if there's a bit of friction, yet all three of their main riders are climbing extremely well.
My issue with that is, how are you going to protect three potential leaders with 7 riders?
Eight
riders, sorry.
Well, it's basically 5 riders, isn't it? If you've got 3 leaders. And remember, one of those riders is Marc Soler, who is no slouch himself.
No, of course.
But he won't have protected status. But 5 domestiques for 3 leaders doesn't really work out, especially on a tour like this, where the first 9 days you basically need an extremely strong and muscular team. In the mountain stage, I think they'll be okay, but they've got to get there.
They've got to get there intact, haven't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, it's interesting. I think from a purely selfish standpoint, I think it would be very entertaining if Landa's on good form at the Tour de France. I don't necessarily think that would be great for Movistar, but like I say, they do have options, and I think they'll be entertaining to watch either way.
A couple of Dutchmen, Kruijswijk and Kelderman, not quite there for different reasons. Kelderman's coming back from that long-term injury. He's still got some nerve damage from that fall he had at Tirreno, the 2 falls he had at Tirreno, in fact. And Kruijswijk targeting the Tour GC for the first ever time, in fact, and not quite there yet. But I don't think that's a massive worry.
Not there yet. With Kruijswijk, there's 2 references I have for them. Firstly, he was very good, very young. He was, I think, top 6 or 7 in the Vuelta years and years ago, like 2011 or 12. I can't remember.
They've got similar paths, really, Kelderman and Kruijswijk. They both did very, very well.
Kind of Dutch prodigies, and they're both from that kind of, or Kruijswijk especially, from that kind of golden generation, which goes out to Mollema and Gesink. They had some very good Dutch riders. Kruijswijk, when he was leading the Giro in 2016, from maybe the end of the first week right through to the very deep into the third week, he looked imperious. I think he's a very capable rider. Whether he can replicate that in the heat of July with so much pressure from so many top favourites, I'm not sure. But I think if he gets the run of the green and kind of gets through the grippy parts of the race without either being held up or without losing any time, then I think it'll be all right. I mean, he's a very gifted climber, but again, he's been inconsistent over his career, so it's hard to bank on him, and he hasn't yet shown Tour leadership form this year. No,
that's true. But one thing I'd say on that aspect is that it's still middle of June, and the real key stages for the Tour are 4 and a bit weeks away, aren't they? So there's still a lot of time. I'd compare him a little bit to one other rider we'll probably talk about in a little bit, with Uran, in that you talk about this kind of steady, gradual pace that you can do in the mountains. He's got that staying power, and he's arguably got a stronger team than Uran. Or actually, definitely got a stronger team with Gesink and one other rider that we'll talk about too, in Primož Roglič around him. And he's got that experience, doesn't he?
He does. The team will be split between supporting Groenewegen in the sprint. And I think Groenewegen's got an extremely good chance of doing well this year. But that said, a team working for a sprinter in that opening phase of the race might not be so bad for Kruijswijk. He sit on the back of the sprint train, keep ahead of any trouble. Groenewegen wins a couple of stages, maybe, so the pressure's off the team, and he's had a free run through the first week, so might work in his favour. We'll see. Like you say, he's resilient in the mountains. If he gets there in a good place, then if he does what he did in the Giro 2 years ago, then he's got a good chance of top 5, maybe even higher.
And what do you make of Primoz Roglic, who won in Slovenia in really impressive fashion? 2 stage wins back to back. He's won Romandy. He won another stage race.
Country.
That's right. That escapes me. So he's a really interesting prospect, isn't he?
He is. I mean, the thing is that he's been talking down his prospects in the Tour. He's been saying he's been focusing on the 1 week races this year and isn't ready for the 3 week races, which you never know whether to believe people like that or not. I mean, I think he's extremely talented and has a potential to do well in later years. I don't think the course is very well made for him, and also he's extremely strong in the time trials, but there's one time trial on the second last day of the Tour when they're all going to be knackered and the time gaps will be big, and it's not necessarily on terrain that it's a brutally hard time trial. There's some really hard climbs in it. So I don't think this year's Tour is a good one for him, and I think that team would be better off using him as either super domestique for Kruijswijk or doing what he did last year, which is nip off and win a stage.
Yeah, possibly. We will see. He's either going to, like a bit Landa, you just don't quite know what's going to turn up at the Tour. He could be riding top 5 by the end of the second week, and
he could be. To me, he's unproven. So if he proves it this year, great.
But he hasn't shown any.
No, he hasn't. No.
We obviously week-long races are a completely different kettle of fish, but he hasn't shown any weakness whatsoever. I was at Romandy, and those attacks from Bernal in the mountains were Contador-esque, and he didn't even look like he was in any trouble whatsoever.
Yeah, he's a smooth, strong rider. We'll see how he does.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's not forget about the riders who were at the Dauphiné. But let's hear first from Greg van Avermaet. Split into 2 parts. This is the first part of our interview with Greg van Avermaet. This took place somewhere at some point during the Tour de Suisse. Every day seemed to kind of merge into one there. How are they going to do in the World Cup, do you think, Belgium?
Pretty good, I think.
You think?
Yeah, I think they're going to win.
Have they got just the best players but not the best team?
No, they're getting better, I think. Actually, in Belgium, everybody's pretty negative about the team, because like everybody says what you say. They have good players, but they don't have team. But I have the feeling they come to an age now where they finally have this kind of mature thing where they really can do something special, I think. And I think it's a good combination of some good players. And I think they finally learned how to play together, and it took some time, but I think now it's a good moment to finally make some results.
Taking time, but now making results. Is that, in a way, almost a metaphor for how your career almost developed in a way? Like, it took a while to kind of make those big steps towards those big wins, and then all of a sudden everything kind of came together for you?
Yeah, for sure, I think. Age helps. You have to make some mistakes before you really do it good, and that's the kind of way I think also they are doing it. And the last big tournaments were not that great. They went even out against Ireland, and it was not that good. But I think it comes over ages and about experience, and it was kind of with me also. It took a while. I think I was always up there, but it took a while really to take these big victories, and once you have one, the second one comes pretty easy.
I read somewhere that you're quite good friends with Courtois. Is that true?
Yeah, friends is a big word. I think they're pretty busy, like I'm also. So it's pretty hard to catch up with each other and to speak. But most of the time, it's Courtois or Vertongen would send a message if the race went well, and I think the Flemish part kind of players are following cycling a little bit more in Belgium, and Vertongen says when he plays with Tottenham and he puts cycling on TV, everybody wants to try to change the channel, so it's the only cycling fan in Tottenham, so it's not that big in football.
And what English team do you follow?
Actually, every Belgian guy a little bit. Yeah, Tottenham with Jan, and then Chelsea with Hazard and Courtois. Mignola is playing for Liverpool, so we have a few good guys up there.
Flamini as well.
Yeah, Fellaini with Man United. So yeah, I try to follow every Belgian player out of the country a bit. We have Mertens with Napoli, some good guys there. So De Bruyne with Manchester City. So
yeah,
it's actually cool to follow, and I like when they're also a little bit interested into cycling, and they also appreciate what you're doing. And yeah, did some stuff together with Vertongen, and that's just pretty cool to talk about cycling also.
Cool. 'Cause a lot of people, well, for listeners that don't know, you used to play a lot of football, and then at one point I think you had to make a choice between playing football and committing to cycling.
Yeah. I was playing till my 18 years, and pretty high level actually. I was in national league of young footballers, and yeah, I went actually pretty well. And actually, it was my biggest goal to be a professional football player, and I was really going for it. But then, yeah, at 18, 17 years old, it was hard to stay in the team. As a goalkeeper, you have only one spot in the team, and lost that one. And then I just tried on cycling, and it went pretty fast and pretty easy. Get professional, and that's why I stayed, on my bike.
Were you ahead of Courtois?
No, for sure not. No? I think, it's a special talent. I think I had also some talent, but if you see my endurance that I have on the bike, I think this is my biggest, biggest weapon, and this you almost cannot use in football. So I think I would be a good player on lower level, but never getting that high. I think like Courtois did, because they are phenomenal, I think, and also De Bruyne. If you see him playing, Hazard playing, it's kind of different story than. So I think I made the right choice to choose for my bike.
Yeah, and I think last time we spoke, you said you play FIFA a lot. Does that come with you at all the races, or is that just at home?
Oh, at home I cannot do it because then my wife kills me. But almost only at training camps. Yeah, because then you have more time. Races is pretty hard, I think, because schedule is pretty full, a lot of traveling around. But in training camps we try to do it a little bit, but it's also, since I have a kid, it gets
just
only
dust
training camp. Yeah, so then I try to be the younger guy of the team or something. But in the last 2 years I didn't play that much anymore.
That's fair enough. And in terms of looking ahead, obviously going towards the Tour de France, but on a further down the line, how much more do you have to achieve in your career, do you think?
Oh, still a lot, I think. I want to still win in Flanders. I want to be world champion. That's about it, I think. I really want to, for sure, win Flanders, because that's a bit empty spot on my palmarès. And world championships is something special, I think, also for a one-day rider, and I think it fits me. But then still, every race I start with ambition. Still want to win as much as possible. How hard it sometimes it also is, because I think I'm really one day rider who really can do well on this kind of races. But also in grand tours, I try to be up there and try to win some stages. So still a lot to achieve. I still want to do the Giro once, because I never was there, and I also want to win a stage there. So plenty things to do, I think, and also classics every year. It would be nice to win a second Roubaix or something. So,
do you when it comes to the classics, I've always wondered, do you know when it comes to maybe, okay, the schedule has changed, but maybe towards Flanders, when it was the first one after San Remo, do you know even then whether or not you're going to really be in contention to win a classic? Because between then and Roubaix, there's not much time for you to train or really affect your form. So do you know at that early point, I'm going to win one, or I'm not going to be really, unless something really drastic happens and I have a bit of luck, I'm not going to quite be able to do it?
I think the build-up is always kind of the same. I think you do Tirreno, Milan-San Remo, and then once you're there, I think you're able to say, I'm good enough to really win a race. I think like this year also I had the feeling I could do it, but a lot of other things around and a little bit of luck really plays a lot in this game, I think. Or you have to be super good, you have to ride away from everybody. But not a lot of guys. Like a lot of guys can do this. I think also race situations, teammates on the right spot, can help a lot, and condition for sure is there. But once you're in this kind of group for 4 or 5 riders, you always are there. I think then it plays a little bit more with tactics and attacking on the right moment, and that's what I think I missed a little bit this year. I think condition was quite good enough. On the numbers, you always see the kind of same numbers that I did the years before, but it's just making the right decisions. Maybe a little bit more pressure on me, more watching from other riders also, because you won the previous year. So for sure, the directors say, take a really good look at Van Avermaet when he goes. You go with him. And this kind of situations were not always in my favor, I think, and a lot of times also came again alone in the final. So sometimes in this situation, it's good to have a kind of other guy who takes the attention a little bit away and helps you a bit to win this kind of races.
Yeah, just on the you mentioned pressure there for a second. Mm-hmm. Did you really feel that was a big weight on your shoulders? Because normally when you're at races, you don't seem to be affected by pressure. You do every interview that's requested of you. You stick around in press conferences. You don't seem to become frustrated or angry with journalists when they ask you questions. It seems to be just easy for you. Where was the pressure coming from?
I think pressure comes always about yourself. For me, I wanted to do good again. Had a really nice spring last year, super good. I also said before, I was never going to be that good as last year, just going to be happy if I win one. But then I was really kind of searching for myself also to win one, because I really wanted to have it, and I really wanted to show, I'm possible this year. I do it again now, Flanders for sure. And it comes more out of myself, and of course it comes also from outside, but I think I'm pretty good to handle it. I even like it, because if you're a favorite, it means people like journalists or people around, they believe in you and they think you can do it. But this kind of things were there, and I think it didn't affect my performance, but I think it maybe creates more attention to other riders to look at me, and this kind of blocked a little bit my situation, I think. And it was maybe the first time in my classic campaign that I really was top favorite always. And maybe it was I had to race a bit different in this kind of way.
Was there pressure in the sense that we've known since the start of the year that the team are looking for a sponsor? A big win is not going to always fix everything, but was there also an element thinking, okay, if I win Roubaix or if I win Flanders, then that will really help the team find that sponsor that's missing?
Well, I don't think so. I think this team has been there for many years, been always on a good level. I think top 5, top 3, even I think of World Tour teams. We've always been there with classics as a goal, but also the Tour de France as our main goal. And for me, I think I really didn't think about sponsoring or something else. I just wanted to be good for myself, for the team. I just want to show the people around and myself also that I was able again to do the same this year. And I think it didn't come out, but if you see my results, I was always again top 10, like I always did a bit in my career, but missing just this big win, I think that makes spring so different. If I won Flanders, you would talk different to me, I think, but that's how it goes, and I just tried 200% to do my best again, but it didn't work out.
Prendas Ciclismo provide their customers worldwide with unique cycle clothing that's great quality without a premium price. With knowledgeable cyclists as staff and free shipping on qualifying international orders, truly excellent service awaits you. Visit Prendas Ciclismo online at prendas.co.uk.
That was a bit of Greg. But let's get back to the Tour contenders. Let's talk a little bit about the Dauphiné riders. So Thomas, Dan Martin, Zakarin, Nibali, of course, Barguil, and Bardet, and of course the Yates. Adam Yates. Interesting ride that, wasn't it, from a number of riders? It's a bit harder to predict the form there because the racing is a week earlier and it's a week further away from the Tour, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Normally it's a good form guide for the Tour, and I think a couple of years ago the top three was the same, maybe or very similar to Froome first and Bardet second.
Yeah, maybe not a Dan Martin up there.
No, that's right. So yeah, this year a bit harder to predict, and I think the position of the race in relation to the Tour also changed the field. So the field was much different from it wasn't the Tour favourites anymore. It was a bit more kind of some of the Tour favourites and maybe not. And yeah, it's hard to know what to conclude from it because obviously it's an impressive win for Geraint Thomas, and you know he's not yet shown in the Tour de France that he can get through 3 weeks as a leader. But winning the Dauphiné is a good sign because you look at the quality of riders who won it in the past. There's been a lot of Tour de France winners have won it, so that wouldn't have been bad for him. And he obviously showed good form and also built on the success of Sky in that team time trial, you know, which made life a lot easier.
Yeah, I think Size did the calculation that if Sky hadn't won that team time trial, if some buts, but I think the margins would have been just a couple of seconds, and in which case it would have made a very different finale.
Yeah, exactly. That team time trial, I'm not sure.
But you play to your strengths, don't you? So.
Yeah, you do. I'm not sure it made it a brilliant. I'm not a fan of long team time trials in shortish stage races. Basically,
define the week.
Yeah, they do define it a bit too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, hard to say with Geraint Thomas. He's in the situation again where Chris Froome is the leader and he's kind of semi-protected, maybe quasi-team leader, but with Froome in the team, he won't be the team leader.
It's an awful position to be in because you're almost on standby in case something drastic happens to your team leader, and then you're going to have to ask the other 6 guys, if that case doesn't arise, to all step up and immediately ride for you. In which case, what form have you brought to the race? What position are you in GC?
Well, this is what's good for Geraint Thomas, that he is in good form, evidently, and can handle the Alpine climbs. Whether he can do about 3 weeks, another question. But look at the Tour de France route. Team time trial, that suits his team. The Roubaix stage, among all the riders who have ambitions in the GC, he's the most accomplished. Nibali did well in the Tour a couple of years ago to win. Well, didn't win this. He technically laid the foundations for winning the Tour de France in that stage. But Thomas, you wouldn't normally have any fears for him in that stage.
Didn't he? And then he rode very well the 2010, was it, when they went to Avermaet?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, he made the lead group. He was in the front.
Bischoff.
He was in the front group. Exactly. Yeah, there was Cancellara there as well. Yeah. But he was in the front group, and so you can easily imagine a situation where Geraint Thomas is in the yellow jersey in the Alps. That to me is quite a plausible scenario. And if he's in the yellow jersey, why would he? Yeah. Why would he be pushed out of it?
Well, he had the yellow jersey last year, didn't he?
He did indeed.
He did.
Yeah.
He pushed himself out. Unfortunately.
Exactly. Yeah. So Geraint Thomas, hard to say. That for him, he won the Dauphiné against.
It's a massive result for him, though, isn't it?
It is a massive result
because he desperately needed something after pretty. His spring wasn't great, wasn't it? By all standards.
No, it wasn't.
It was poor in Rome and D.
It was pretty average, and he
lost the lead in Algarve.
Yeah, and he's had bad luck in the Giro d'Italia last year when he was the GC leader. The Tour de France before that wasn't brilliant. The Tour de France before that was good for quite a while and then wasn't good. So, he is, like I said, with Roglic, he's unproven. So until he proves himself to be able to be resilient over 3 weeks, he'll always have an asterisk next to his name. And also, Chris Froome's the team leader, so that's complicated in itself. So at the moment, Geraint Thomas is in a decent place, but, a clear route to the Tour de France win is not that, is not yet there for him.
A couple of guys who haven't shown much yet. I was going to say Vogelsang, but he was actually very good in the last few days of Swiss. Barguil, Nibali hasn't shown his best form at all yet, but no real worry there yet. And Mollema, who not quite there yet in Swiss. I think he's maybe 3.5 minutes down on GC by the end of the race. And Zakarin not not super yet either. There's still time though, isn't it, for those riders?
There is time. Nibali, the year he won the Tour de France, he didn't do much in the spring. He was top 10 maybe in the Dauphiné, I think, but without sparkling at all. So with him, he's getting on a bit. On the other hand, he is still a contender just because of his pure class in 3 races. It's proven class. He's been on the podium countless times. He's won all 3 of them. And on a route like this, you'd have to say he's got a good chance. But again, we'll see with him. In the magazine, I've put him just off my podium, but I can. He surprised me before when he won the 2016 Giro. I thought his career was kind of already starting to tail off then, and then he won the Giro in the last 3 days. So I've learned not to write him off. What
is your top 3 that you put in the magazine? And which magazine is this?
Right, so Tuesday the 19th of June, which is tomorrow as we record, new Procycling out, the Tour de France guide. We've got a packed issue as well as the 32-page free supplement with all the stage and team information you need to know, complete with cultural references and race predictions. We've got various features covering all of the Tour favourites and a feature predicting the likely outcome of the race. We sent Sam off to follow Chris Froome at various races this year, especially at the Giro, and he had a few good chats with Chris Froome. He's kind of outlined where Chris Froome's challenge stands at the moment. We've looked at Romain Bardet's preparation for this year's race on the cobbles. I think he's done really well in the one-day races so far. He's been less good in the stage races, but his one-day racing has been
He was up there in the Dauphiné.
Oh yeah, he was third. Yeah, he's coming to the ball. Interviews with Bob Youngles, Richie Porte, Warren Barguil. A look at the chance of Mark Cavendish adding to his total of 30 stages and plenty more besides.
Good.
So my predictions for the podium, going back to the original point, I've got Froome first. Sorry to be boring. Nairo Quintana second and Romain Bardet third. I think that's pretty safe and conservative.
Yeah, I was going to go even safer and swap out Bardet for Nibali. And I don't quite know the order of Nibali and Quintana, but I mean, I'd put Froome top. I think he's going to win there.
Yeah, and you know what I said earlier on about finding reasons for the riders not to win. I mean, it's like Chris Froome, I think he's going to win, but he rode the Giro, and it was a hard old Giro. Quintana, for me, he's always been a Grand Tour contender, but he doesn't look much better than he was in, say, 2013 or 2015.
But then you look at Cadel Evans, he wasn't that much better in 2011.
Yeah, true. But you could see improvement with Cadel Evans through his career, whereas Quintana seems to have plateaued. He may prove me wrong, but against Quintana is the fact that he's always lacked that sparkle to turn second or third place into first. Romain Bardet, just there's a fragility about his GC challenges that when you saw last year when he absolutely emptied himself to finish on the podium by 1 second. All of these riders, and Nibali, maybe his age is counting against. Well, all these riders, there's a reason I can think they won't win the Tour de France.
No one will win the Tour at this rate.
Well, it's actually why for me it's quite an open race this year.
Yeah.
Against that is the fact that when you really drill down into the route and look at it, it is an incredibly hard Tour de France. I think we're talking a lot about the cobbled stage and that short stage in the Pyrenees, but I think we're getting distracted from the fact that there's really, really, really hard days in the Alps. The Alpe d'Huez stage is absolutely brutal. It goes over the Madeleine and the Croix de Fer and up Alpe d'Huez, and that's the third day in a row of hard climbing. There's not kind of easy-ish alpine stages. They're full on. The Massif Central stages are brutally hard. There's a finish in Mende. That's a
really, really hard stage, isn't it?
And the Carcassonne stage has got a first category mountain about 30k before the finish. So it's not a transition stage. It's full-on hard mountain stage. The Pyrenean stages, there is that short, intense one. The day after that, they go over the Peyresourde, even higher than Peyresourde. They climb from the Peyresourde up to Périgueux. Then they go over the Tourmalet and Orbisque, and there's another second cat climb on the way to the Orbisque, which makes that, to my mind, the hardest mountain stage in the entire race. And it comes, after that's on stage 19, I think, before the time trial, and then the time trial itself. I think this Tour route is going to really find out, who's best over the 3 weeks.
Oh, I'm tempted to swap Froome with Nibali after hearing that.
Yes, yeah, no, it's
Well, he's just fresh, and he's got, unlike Quintana, he doesn't have any distractions with him. His team, he's got the Izagirre brothers. He's got some decent support there, and
yeah, and do you know
he's just kind of slowly building up, isn't he?
when we were planning, I'll confess that when we were planning the magazine, the tour guide, we almost forgot Nibali. We had these features planned for all the main favourites, and we suddenly realised, hang on, there's a former yellow jersey winner for whom this tour is ideally suited, to his strengths. And we all, it's only in the late stage of planning thought we'd better put a feature about Vincenzo Nibali in here because he's a real dark horse. And I think you're right. He's got no distractions. He's had a nice quiet build-up, and there's absolutely no pressure on him.
No. A lot of people, look at his performances last year and say, well, maybe he's lost it in the stage races. He's not quite on the level he once was. And that's possibly true with age, but also you have to factor in that he moved teams last year, and that's a massive shift for someone that's been at Astana for 4 or 5 years and is used to the whole setup. And it wasn't just moving teams, it was setting up an entire new team all around him. So with that comes so many different distractions off the bike that you probably don't even think about and that you're used to as you go from season to season. I think he did remarkably well to finish on the podium in 2 Grand Tours, and then obviously he's won Milan-San Remo this year as well. And
he might yet, depending on the outcome of the Froome case, he might yet have won that Vuelta, which means that
it does change the
exactly. It changes everything. It's up in the air at the moment. But yeah, he's very much a contender. And like I said, I was starting to write him off a couple of years ago, and he reminded me why that is never a wise move.
And all it takes is for one contender to crash out. And you look at his 2014 win, he was in the yellow jersey from stage 2. And then I think he dropped out of the lead on one stage.
No, I think he kept it the whole... Oh, no, did Tony Martin took it over
for a day.
It's for a day
and then just
break.
all the way through. I mean, Contador crashed out, Froome crashed out, but...
They did. I believe that he would have won that tour anyway. I think he was on, absolutely on his A game, and it would have been an extremely hard job putting him out of the yellow jersey. And I think this year's tour will favour a rider who is in good form and has that kind of momentum and avoids any kind of bad luck, because it's so technical and so hard that only a few riders can win it because it's so hard. But statistically, you think it's likely that one or two of those riders might also lose time in the first week. So there's not many people who can win this tour. Nibali is definitely one of them.
Who's your real dark horse, just for one name?
It's hard to say. I mean, with dark horses tend not to win the Tour de France, so it's hard to say. I mean, I think that I used to think that Zachary was a dark horse for the podium because he's quiet and resilient, but again, he's not shown so much this year, and there's the question marks about his descending.
Oh, his team too, I think.
And his team's not brilliant. So yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, Rigoberto Uran was second last year, so he's not really a dark horse. He was within a time trial of winning the race. It's hard to say. I think it's that harder tour that we're not going to get a very surprising winner unless there's so much bad luck with the favourites that we get a complete surprise. But that happens once in a generation.
If Kruijswijk can stay upright for that first 10 days, I think he could be in for a shot.
He might be the best
podium.
of the best. And there's someone else who we haven't mentioned.
Saying maybe.
Yeah,
well, he can handle those cobbles well, and he's in the best couple of years of his career. Really.
Yeah, his team didn't do very well in the TTT.
No, they aren't great
for him. Level, so that's going to count against him.
But that could help him. Losing maybe a minute and a half, that could just take the pressure off and just mean that gets a bit of a freer ride going through those first mountain stages.
And he's climbing. He's actually one of the best climbers in the world. He just hasn't got the Palmares to really show it. There's one more rider who, counts as a dark horse thing, is Bob Jungels, who doesn't have the climbing class but has the team to carry him through to the start of the mountains in good shape. But when you look at his climbing pedigree, I just don't think that much climbing will suit him.
He'll come unstuck, I think.
I don't think
he's a 3 week.
Well, he's had two good. He's had two good rides in the Giro d'Italia, and those were both built off the foundation of getting well up there in the GC early on and kind of maintaining through the grippy early stages. So he could do well, but
he had a poor day.
I would be I'd be very surprised if he broke into the top 5, outside of the top 10. Maybe
he's only 25. Didn't know that.
Yeah, he's young.
A bit older.
Yeah.
In the next magazine, or in this magazine,
we've interviewed him for this month's mag.
I plugged it myself. There you go.
Thanks very much. As the Liège Best on Liège champion, we felt, and one who's starting to move towards kind of looking at Grand Tours. We thought he was an interesting rider to talk to, and he's a very interesting character. He's very, very confident, and seems to have a very clear idea of where he's going.
Well, let's hear from Greg Van Avermaet a little bit more from our interview during the Tour de Suisse. I still can't remember when we did this. I think it was the end of stage 3, but could have made that up. Well, this is Greg. I just interviewed Richie upstairs, and he said that obviously he's going to the Tour with the ambition for the yellow jersey, but he said Greg deserves his opportunities too. How many opportunities are there in the Tour for you this year?
I think 3, 4, something like this. Compare for sure. This is maybe my best chance. Britannia will be super hard, but give it a try. Then Roubaix stage. And then maybe a few others, maybe like breakaway days, where I have also a chance to go in and try to get out there and getting some distance, because I'm pretty far behind in GC. And then we have the team time trial where we want to score for sure with the team. And like we say, I think it helps. I'm really happy Richie's in the team, because I cannot lead the team the whole Tour de France. I'm not good of a sprinter in this kind of way for this. I cannot compete every day. So it's good sometimes to back off, give some pressure to Richie, and I can do the same for Richie. I think it's good that I'm there to taking at certain stages a bit the pressure off. That's sometimes too much of pressure of always don't lose time. For a GC guy can kill you in 3 weeks. And it would be good if I can open up with a nice win somewhere and take the pressure off the team.
Have you thought about the yellow jersey in the first week, maybe the team time trial?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think I'm this kind of guy who always sits in even if it's hard, doesn't lose time, get some bonus sprints. Then team time trial for sure. We need to win this one, and then you move up in GC and comes pretty fast to you. Then the yellow jersey. So had this experience already once to wear the yellow, and it was a really special feeling. So it would be really good if I can have it back one time.
If you're all on the same time in the team and you win the team time trial, who decides who crosses the line first?
Depends a bit. Normally we don't make really good things to say before the race, but this week we said to Stefan, he's from this region. He won. He lives where the time trial was. We decided to take a Swiss guy in home country to pass the line first, because also he deserved it. He's one of the big engines in this kind of time trial. In Tirreno we did a few times Caruso and Daniel also, because same reason, Italian. In the Tour, I don't know. I think it's also it's different than the opening stage, so it will be about placing in the stages. Who's gonna decide who's gonna take the yellow jersey? But I like kind of taking yellow and then passes kind of the jersey around in the team for the atmosphere, because especially in the Tour is something special, I think, for everybody to take a jersey.
And talking about jerseys, you've been asked so many times in the last few months about what jersey you're going to wear next season. Mm-hmm. Do you know yet in your head what you're going to do?
No, not yet, no. I think there are a few options to play. And I think in the next 3-4 weeks I think it's gonna be more clear where I'm gonna go. I was waiting a long time on this team to stay, but seems like we don't find anything special yet for the moment. So for me, I cannot wait too long, and I would also want to see where my future is. So I think in a few weeks I can say more.
Before the Tour?
Yeah, I think a kind of rider, and also for other teams, I think it's pretty big budget that goes away. So I think I know something before the Tour, I hope.
Because I think all the speculation is Bahrain because they wanted a classics rider, and also you've got people there that you know with Rigoberto Uran, and then Lotto Soudal because of the link with the former agent who's now the team manager there. How many options are there, realistically?
A few, I think. You have to see where you fit in a team. You have to see where's the budget to have a classic rider, and I think then you can make the calculation a bit which teams are available, and that there are a few. And I'm pretty happy I have this choice between. But I think for me in my career, I'm really gonna go also for so again sportive, really good team where I can do my thing and try to win classics. And it would be nice if I also for myself know before the tour where I'm gonna ride next year.
Yeah. So you would go. The priority for you is to find the best sporting environment rather than to go for just the incentive of the biggest pay packet.
Yeah, if you choose for the payback, I think then it's I wouldn't even want to ride for BMC anymore. I think, but then I think sportive ways is pretty important. I think it has to be balanced. Financial for sure, it's important also, but I think the balance has to be there. I think the most important is that the team believes in me and they really want me, and that's for me. That's really something important.
Yeah, and do you think that the time now has gone with BMC, that it's the reality is that it's now finished?
Let's hope they still find something. Even if I'm not there, even if it's in August or September, I think a lot of people in this company deserve to go through, and we have made good results. We've always been there. We had a good organization. We were one of the best teams there. So it would be really sad if something of this organization really goes away. So I'm still hoping that if it not for me, for other riders and staff members, they can go through. But we will see. Maybe in a few weeks we can be saying something else. But for now, I was hoping that we had to solve this problem already in April.
Yeah. Will you be wearing a different jersey in 2019?
Yeah, it's a big chance. Yeah.
So very finally, football. Going back to what we were originally talking about, the most important bit, you really think Belgium can go all the way?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
What's the furthest they've got in the World Cup before? I think
quarter or eight finals. I said
quarterfinals
before.
Did they not do well in 86?
Yeah,
maybe?
in 86 in Mexico, they went half final.
Semi-final.
Semi-final.
Okay, and then lost to Argentina, maybe, or Germany.
Germany, I think.
It's a long time. Do you remember it?
Yeah, they always come with these stories. In Belgian newspaper, they always talk about this generation. So,
what was the first World Cup you remember watching?
It has to be 2006 or something.
No, you don't remember 1990?
No.
In Italy?
Oh yeah, not that good.
You might have been like 5 or 6, maybe.
Or is it with Baggio and this kind of guy?
Baggio, and then I think David Platt knocked Belgium out, I think, in the second round.
That's pretty early.
We've talked a lot about the Tour de France, obviously, which is coming up in a few weeks' time. While in the women's peloton, Corinne Rivera found her best form to win the women's tour in the UK. The American won a stage and has now taken 4 wins in the last few weeks, if you count her GC win. She's really found her form after going winless for the first few months of the season. Marianne Vos and Danielle Rowe rounded out the top 3 overall. Of course, you can head over to Cyclingnews for complete race coverage. We've got news, reports, photos and video highlights. Ed, did you watch much of the women's tour?
Yeah, watched highlights most evenings. Yeah, it's entertaining. It's a great race. It makes me very proud to be from Britain when you see, first of all, the crowds that routinely come out for our bike race. It was excellent atmosphere. I went to the start of the first stage. Went over for a couple of days to just experience the atmosphere and have a chat to a couple of riders, and then Sophie took over for the next couple of days. And so the crowds are brilliant. The atmosphere was brilliant. I think British roads are, when the weather's nice, there's it's one of the most beautiful countries for bike racing. With it's not mountainous, it's not too hard, rolling, grippy, climby kind of roads, and really enjoyed it. I thought great race. in a great place.
I missed it, unfortunately, all of it, due to being off at the weekend and then at Tour de Suisse. But no, catching up on the highlights at the moment. So, like I said, head over to Cycling News and we've got complete coverage there. That's about all we've got time for today on the Cycling News podcast. We may be back on Thursday, Ed?
I'm nodding.
He's nodding.
What's happening Thursday?
It's when we're all next in the office. So celebratory there. That's about all we've got time for this week on the Cycling News podcast. Join us Thursday.